All right, so back to box and whisker plots. Sorry about the bell in the last video, but here's the example I left you with. So it says to find the range, median, lower quartile, upper quartile, interquartile range of this set of scores. The nice thing is it's already arranged in numerical order. So we have to count the number of numbers in there. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 numbers. So the median is where we start normally. And the median is going to be 15 plus 1 divided by 2. So that's going to give me 8. So I need the 8th number. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There it is. So the median is 68. Now, I look at this lower half, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the 4th number, I can go through the calculations, but it's easier just to look at the numbers. So that means Q1 is 52. And the upper half has the same numbers. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4. So Q3 is 87. And so we have our median, we have our lower quartile, upper quartile, then it says find the interquartile range. So we call that the IQR, and we take 87 and we subtract 52. So that gives me 35. So this is show the data in a box and whisker plot. So it's pretty easy to do that. We just need a number line. Well, let me try that without the pen because straight lines don't seem to be very easy to draw with this thing. Okay, so here's my line. I need the numbers to go. The minimum number, if you look up here, is 18. The highest number is 100. So I'm just going to go up by tens. And go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. So there's 100 right there. And we're going up by 10. So 10 is here, then 20, 30, 40, 50, just to give us a little bit of an idea of where we're at. So the median is 68, so there's 68 is kind of here-ish. The upper quartile is 87, so that's close to 90. The maximum number is 100. The Q1 is 52, so it's here. And then the minimum number is 18, so the minimum's down here. So we have to draw a box, and I'm going to do it a little bit differently this time. I'm going to actually get a box shape so that I can draw this a little more effectively. So there's my box, and I'm just going to move it over here and then make it a slightly bigger so we can have, so there's our box part where we're going Q1 and Q2. Then our line, our median goes down here. And then we go out this way to our minimum value, and we go out this way to our maximum value. And I'm just going to fix these whiskers so they're the same height. But that's, actually this guy looks like he needs to be brought in just slightly. And then this guy is good. He's at 100. All right, so there's our box and whisker plot. And then it says to check if 18 is an outlier. So check to see if this number here, this is an outlier, if it's not a normal value. And you remember from what we just talked about that an outlier is 1.5 times the quartile range less than Q1. So if I take 1.5 and multiply it by 35, that gives me 35 plus half of 35, which is 17.5. So I'm looking at 40, 52.5. All right, and I'm going to take the low quartile and I'm going to subtract that. So I'm going to take, we'll say outlier is going to be 52 minus 52.5. So the outlier is going to be at 0.5 in the negative direction, anything less than that. So 18 is not an outlier because it's not less than negative 0.5. All right, so we can say even though it's lower, this lower half of the box and whisker plot is different, it's still not an outlier because it doesn't qualify for this. All right. So there's our box and whisker plot. One more thing I wanted to mention to you before we're done with this descriptive statistics stuff, is just the concept of a percentile. I think you know what a percentile is, but just in case you don't, a percentile is a score below which a certain percentage of data lies. And you'll often see this when we're talking about children and the development of children. You'll often see people say, well, they're in the 20th percentile for weight and the 50th percentile for height. When I had my children, they would often go with their 1-year checkup and they would say, this is the percentile they're in. So all that means is, if I say I'm in the 85th percentile, it's a good thing. It means that 85% of the data is below you, so you're a high achiever. If you're in the 20th percentile, it means that only 20% of people are below you, which means that you're not quite up to where you want to be. So the quartiles we already know, and they're just the 25 percentiles. They're 25th and then the 50th and the 75th. But you can ask people for a different percentile, for example, like the 95th down here, or the 85th percentile. So it's just something that you can use. And in fact, on a cumulative frequency graph, you will sometimes see that they write the percentage there instead of the frequency. Not always, but sometimes. And so what you'll be able to see is the 85th percentile or the 90th percentile, or whatever. You just read it right off the graph. Now, that percentile translates into an actual number in terms of the frequency, if you have that. But often, especially with a large group of people, you'll see it as a percentage. So if you're thinking about young children, like the 1-year-old who's in the 20th percentile for weight, they have a lot of data, so they're not going to say, you're 200 out of 25,000 kids that we have measured. It just doesn't. It makes sense to put it as a percentage. So percentiles, that's how they work. All right, and so you can see in this question, we won't go through the whole question. You can if you want to, but it says a botanist has to measure the heights of 60 seedlings. And so here's our cumulative frequency graph. And one of the questions, just the one that we'll highlight, is right here. It says find the 90th percentile. So the 90th percentile means 90% of the data is less than that. So the first thing you have to do, and again, we're skipping these, but it says 60 seedlings. So if I want to know what the 90th percentile is, I need to go, I'm going to just scroll down here where you can see I answered all these questions, and you can see the answers there just so you know what they are. If you want to do the rest of the question, I'm going to scroll back up in a second, but you can just look at them there and pause the video if you wish to. So the 90th percentile, we've got to take 90% of 60 because there's 60 seedlings. So we go 90% of 60 is 60 times 0.9, and that gives me 54. And then I go to my graph, and I go to 54, which is right here, and I go over, and I'm hitting that dot right basically on the money. And if I go down, it's at 10 centimeters. Okay, so that's where I'm getting 10 centimeters from. But that's how you work with percentiles. We're going to end the video there. I'm planning to give you some questions in class that are from the IB curriculum. And I will post this to Google Classroom, but there are some IB questions you can see like this that we're going to do together in class on Monday, just to give you an idea of what IB wants you to do. So see you later.